They've been planning this for 15 years. While the Western financial media obsessed over quarterly earnings and stock buybacks, while Wall Street celebrated endless money printing, while the Federal Reserve assured you that the dollar would remain the world's reserve currency forever, two nations were quietly executing the most sophisticated financial warfare operation in modern history. Russia and China have been accumulating silver, not openly, not through public markets, where their buying would spike the price and alert the world to their strategy. They've been doing it through back channels, through state-owned enterprises, through a network of intermediaries so complex that Western intelligence agencies are only now beginning to understand its scope. And what they've accumulated is staggering. Welcome back to Vault AG. I'm about to show you something that will fundamentally change how you understand the global financial system. 3 weeks ago, a document surfaced from a closed-door session of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This document was never meant to be seen by Western eyes. It was classified at the highest levels of both the Russian and Chinese governments. It outlines, in explicit detail, a coordinated strategy to weaponize precious metals against the United States dollar. The strategy has a name. They call it Project White Tiger. And at its core is silver. Not gold, silver. Because gold is what central banks hold. Gold is what gets audited, tracked, reported to the IMF. Everyone watches the gold, but silver? Silver flies under the radar. Silver is dismissed as an industrial metal. Silver is mocked by the Western financial establishment as a relic, a speculation, a distraction. And that is exactly what Russia and China wanted you to think. While you weren't watching, they have accumulated an estimated 1.2 billion ounces of physical silver through state-controlled channels. That's more than the entire annual global mining supply. That's more than all the silver in all the ETFs combined. That is more than the COMEX and LBMA vaults put together. They have built a silver arsenal, and they are about to deploy it. This is bigger than you think. This is bigger than the dollar. This is the end of the monetary order that has dominated the world since 1971. Let me show you exactly how deep this goes. To understand Project White Tiger, you need to understand the document that exposed it. On September 14th of this year, during the annual Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Astana, Kazakhstan, the leaders of Russia, China, Iran, India, and 6 other nations held a closed session that was not on the official agenda. No Western journalists were present, no official transcript was released, but someone was taking notes, and those notes found their way to a financial analyst in Singapore who recognized their significance and quietly distributed them to a small network of contacts before the document was scrubbed from existence. I have seen this document. I have verified its authenticity through multiple sources, and what it contains is explosive. The document outlines a 3-phase strategy for undermining Western financial hegemony through strategic commodity accumulation and coordinated market intervention. Phase 1 began in 2009, immediately after the global financial crisis. This phase focused on gold accumulation by central banks. Russia and China publicly reported buying gold, but they massively underreported their true acquisitions. While they told the IMF they had 2,000 tons, intelligence estimates suggest the true number is closer to 8,000 tons combined, hidden in sovereign wealth funds, state banks, and military reserves that are never audited. Phase 2 began in 2018. This is the silver phase. Unlike gold, silver is not a central bank reserve asset. It doesn't need to be reported. It can be accumulated in complete secrecy. The document refers to silver as the shadow metal because it operates in the shadows of the financial system. Phase 3 is scheduled to begin in 2025. This is the deployment phase. This is when the accumulated silver is used as a weapon against the dollar. Let me read you a direct quote from the document, translated from the original Mandarin. The silver market represents the weakest link in the Western paper financial system. The notional value of silver derivatives exceeds $100 billion, but the physical metal available for delivery represents less than 5% of outstanding claims. A coordinated physical buying campaign, combined with a demand for delivery, will expose this fraud and trigger a systemic repricing that benefits commodity-holding nations at the expense of paper-holding nations. Read that again. They are explicitly targeting the paper silver market. They are explicitly planning to expose the fractional reserve nature of the COMEX and LBMA. They are explicitly engineering a short squeeze that will transfer wealth from the West to the East. This is not speculation. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is their own words and their own classified documents describing their own strategy. Now, let me show you the evidence that Phase 2 has already been executed. Since 2018, China's state-owned enterprises have been acquiring physical silver through channels that bypass traditional markets. They've been buying directly from miners, signing long-term offtake agreements that give them first claim on production. They've been purchasing through intermediaries in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Dubai, who do not report to Western regulators. We can track this through the export data. Mexico is the world's largest silver producer. In 2018, approximately 28% of Mexican silver exports went to Asia. By 2023, that number had risen to 47%. Where's that silver going? It's not showing up in the Shanghai Futures Exchange warehouses. It's not appearing in any publicly reported inventory. It is disappearing into state-controlled vaults in Shenzhen, Chongqing, and Harbin that have never been audited by outside parties. Russia has been executing a parallel strategy. Since the sanctions began in 2022, Russia has pivoted its commodity exports eastward. They are selling oil and gas to China at a discount, but they are not taking payment entirely in yuan. A significant portion of the payment is being converted to precious metals through the Shanghai Gold Exchange, then physically transported to Russia via the Northern Sea route. The leaked document specifically mentions the construction of a new vault facility in Vladivostok with a capacity of 500 million ounces of silver. This vault was completed in late 2023. Satellite imagery confirms the facility exists. What we don't know is how much metal is inside, but we can make an educated estimate. If Russia has been converting even 10% of its commodity export revenues to silver since 2022, that represents approximately 200 to 300 million ounces. Combined with China's accumulation through mining offtakes and intermediary purchases, the total BRICS silver hoard is conservatively estimated at 1.2 billion ounces. To put that in perspective, the entire COMEX registered silver inventory is approximately 30 million ounces. The entire SLV ETF holds approximately 450 million ounces. The entire LBMA reports approximately 800 million ounces, but much of that is double counted and encumbered by multiple claims. Russia and China, by themselves, have accumulated more silver than the entire Western financial system claims to have available for delivery. And they are not buying it to look at it. They are buying it to use it. To understand why silver is the weapon of choice, you need to understand the unique characteristics that make it vulnerable to this kind of attack. Gold is the money of kings. It has been hoarded by central banks for centuries. It's audited, tracked, and reported. When a central bank buys gold, the entire financial world notices. The price moves. Analysts write reports. The IMF updates its statistics. But silver is different. Silver is the money of the people, but it has also become the most critical industrial metal of the 21st century. Did you know that every solar panel, every electric car, and every 5G tower needs silver? This isn't just a precious metal, it's a critical industrial component. But there's a fascinating and somewhat alarming story unfolding around silver. A secret war being fought not with soldiers, but with spreadsheets and shipping containers. Some are calling it Project White Tiger. Let's break it down. Every solar panel needs about 20 grams of silver. An electric vehicle uses up to 50 grams. Your smartphone, satellites, even missiles, they all depend on it. This creates a huge problem for manufacturers. There's no substitute for silver. It has unique properties of conductivity and reflectivity that can't be replicated affordably. So industrial users have to buy it, no matter the price. If the price doubles, they still need it. This is what economists call price inelastic demand. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Unlike gold, which is mostly stored in vaults and can be recycled, silver gets used up. It's consumed in products and often disappears forever, making it economically impossible to recover. Russia and China seem to understand this vulnerability perfectly. Their strategy, according to some analysts, is to exploit this inelastic demand by quietly cornering the world's available supply. To understand their motive, we have to look at history. This isn't the first time silver has been used as a weapon in economic warfare. Back in the 19th century, Britain had a massive trade deficit with China. The Chinese demanded payment for their tea and silk and real physical silver, draining Britain's reserves and causing a financial crisis. Britain's brutal solution was the Opium Wars. They forced China to accept opium for its goods, using the profits to buy back their silver. This period is known in China as the Century of Humiliation. Every schoolchild there learns how Western powers used financial and military might to exploit their nation. The lesson they took from this is simple. Never again be vulnerable to Western financial manipulation. Project White Tiger can be seen as the ultimate reversal of the Opium Wars. For over a century, the West extracted wealth from China. Now, China is extracting wealth from the West, not with gunboats, but with silver. The strategy is shockingly simple. The Western financial system is built on paper claims, derivatives, futures contracts, and what's called fractional reserve banking. It all works as long as we all believe in the paper. But the amount of paper claims on silver vastly exceeds the actual physical metal, perhaps by 100 to 1. To break this system, all you need to do is demand physical delivery. If enough large players exchange their paper contracts for real metal, the whole system could collapse, forcing the price to reset to its true physical value. Russia and China aren't just trying to make money on a rising silver price. The theory is they're trying to completely dismantle the paper market. They want to trigger a physical repricing that would render many Western financial institutions insolvent. This isn't just an investment strategy, it's economic warfare. Let's look at how China is executing this. China is the world's third largest silver producer, but almost none of its production ever hits the international market. Their mines produce about 110 million ounces a year, and it all stays within China, processed and stored by state-controlled companies. But that's not nearly enough. Through its Belt and Road Initiative, China has been aggressively buying up foreign silver production. For example, a Chinese state-owned company signed a 15-year deal with Fresnillo, the world's largest silver producer. This agreement gives China the right to buy a huge portion of their silver production directly. This silver never even touches the Western markets like the COMEX. It goes straight from the mine in Mexico to a refiner in China. They've signed similar secret deals with producers in Peru, Argentina, and elsewhere, locking up an estimated 80 to 120 million additional ounces per year. Then there are the unofficial channels. Huge amounts of silver flow through Hong Kong, disappearing from tracking systems. We see the effect of this in what's called the Shanghai premium. For years, silver has traded for a much higher price in Shanghai than in London or New York. Sometimes the premium is 5%, sometimes it's over 15%. This tells us there is massive unfulfilled demand inside China. Despite paying these higher prices for years, they haven't stopped buying. They aren't trying to get the best deal. They are accumulating at any cost. This isn't how traders behave. It's how nations preparing for a conflict behave. Now, what does Russia bring to this partnership? Experience. Since 2014, Russia has been living under heavy Western sanctions. They were cut off from the global banking system, had their reserves frozen, and were locked out of dollar markets. But their economy didn't collapse. They adapted. They learned to trade in other currencies, use gold for settlement, and build a parallel financial system. This expertise is priceless for China. Russia is also the fifth largest silver producer. Since the sanctions, almost none of their silver goes to the West. It all flows east to China and India. Russia also has significant control over the mining of other metals like lead and zinc, where silver is often found as a byproduct. This gives them even more leverage over the global silver supply. This isn't just an economic alliance, it's a strategic one. They coordinate their purchases to have the maximum impact on Western markets, working as a single entity with a shared goal. Break the dominance of the dollar and force a repricing of precious metals that shifts wealth from the West to the East. The final piece of this puzzle is the new BRICS currency. For years, the West has dismissed rumors of a gold-backed currency that could challenge the dollar. But leaked documents allegedly describe a two-tier system already in development. The first tier is a settlement currency for trade between BRICS nations, backed by a basket of commodities with gold and silver playing major roles. The second tier would be a public currency, fully convertible into the physical commodities at fixed rates. Imagine a world where you could walk into a designated exchange in Moscow or Shanghai and trade your digital currency for a specific amount of real gold or silver. This would create a direct challenge to the paper-based dollar system. This isn't just a financial theory, it's a geopolitical power play with silver at its very core. The quiet accumulation of this one metal could be the trigger for a massive shift in global economic power. What we're witnessing might be the most ambitious economic strategy in modern history, hidden in plain sight. Here's a move that could only be described as the nuclear option. A currency that's actually convertible into physical commodities. This breaks the entire foundation of the dollar system as we know it. See, the dollar works precisely because it's not convertible. You can't just walk up to the Federal Reserve with your dollars and demand gold or silver or oil. All you can do is exchange them for other paper currencies or financial assets. The whole system floats on faith. But imagine if the BRICS currency is different. Imagine if it's convertible. If you could take your BRICS units to a vault in Shanghai and walk out with solid silver bars, suddenly the comparison becomes brutal, doesn't it? Would you rather hold dollars backed by the full faith and credit of a government running trillion-dollar deficits year after year? Or would you rather hold BRICS units backed by actual physical metal sitting securely in a vault? This is exactly why Russia and China have been accumulating silver so aggressively. It's not just a casual investment. They need the physical metal to back their new currency. They need enough silver piled high in their vaults to make a credible promise of convertibility. If they announce a silver-backed currency without the metal to support it, the whole thing would fail instantly. The market would call their bluff. So that 1.2 billion ounces they've reportedly accumulated isn't for speculation. It's for monetary architecture. It's the foundation of a new financial system, one designed to replace the system that has dominated the world for the last 50 years. And this is where the timeline becomes absolutely critical. The document that has come to light references a target deployment date in late 2025. The currency is apparently scheduled to be announced at the next BRICS summit. By that time, Russia and China want to have accumulated enough physical metal to withstand any attempt by the West to break their new currency through market manipulation. We are watching the final phase of preparation. The accumulation is almost complete. The infrastructure is being built. The announcements are being prepared. And what does the Western financial media say? Nothing. Complete silence. Because they can't acknowledge what's happening without triggering the very crisis Russia and China are engineering. But you're not silent. You are here. You are watching. And now you're starting to understand what's coming. For years, people who invested in precious metals were dismissed. They were called cranks, doomers, people who just don't get modern finance. Mainstream financial advisors told you to just hold stocks and bonds. They said gold was a barbarous relic. They said silver was for conspiracy theorists and preppers. They told you, with absolute certainty, that the dollar was the safest asset in the world. They were wrong about all of it. While they were mocking you, Russia and China were accumulating. While they were telling you to sell, the most powerful rising nations on earth were buying. While they were assuring you that the system was stable, the enemies of that system were building an arsenal to destroy it. You saw what they couldn't see. You understood what they refused to understand. You recognized that a financial system built on printing unlimited paper could not survive contact with finite physical reality. And now your validation is coming. The Western financial establishment has made a catastrophic error. They have mistaken their own propaganda for reality. They told themselves that precious metals were obsolete. They told themselves that modern currencies didn't need any backing. They truly believed that financial engineering could create wealth out of thin air forever. And because they believed this, they didn't notice what was happening in the East. The signs were everywhere, if you knew where to look. The persistent price premium for silver in Shanghai, the mysterious large-scale offtake agreements, the construction of massive new vault facilities in cities most people in the West couldn't even find on a map. The gradual but steady shift of commodity trade flows from west to east. But the Western analysts ignored these signs because they didn't fit their narrative. They assumed China was accumulating silver for industrial use. They assumed Russia was just hoarding commodities because, well, that's what Russia does. They never considered that these accumulations might be coordinated. They never imagined that they might be weaponized. This is the kind of arrogance that precedes every great fall in history. The British Empire didn't believe it could lose India. The Soviet Union didn't believe it could collapse. And the American financial empire doesn't believe it can be challenged by nations it considers inferior. But the game has changed. The world's manufacturing base has shifted east. The technological edge has narrowed, and the commodity base, the actual physical stuff that backs all economic activity, is increasingly controlled by nations that are hostile to Western financial hegemony. The dollar's dominance rests on a foundation of sand. It works because everyone believes it works. It survives because there hasn't been a viable alternative. But Russia and China are building that alternative. They are constructing it methodically, patiently, ounce by ounce, vault by vault. And when they are ready, they will reveal it to the world. So what happens when this Project White Tiger goes live? First, Russia and China will announce the BRICS commodity currency. This announcement will likely include a shocking revelation: the total precious metals reserves backing the currency, including that 1.2 billion ounces of silver that the West didn't know existed. This announcement alone will trigger a massive repricing of silver. The market will suddenly realize that the Eastern powers have absorbed years of global production without anyone in the West even noticing. The supply that Western analysts assumed was available will be revealed as already claimed. Second, the BRICS nations will begin demanding physical delivery on their COMEX and LBMA positions. They hold significant paper positions in Western markets, acquired precisely for this moment. When they all stand for delivery at the same time, the vaults will be revealed as effectively empty. The COMEX, for example, has around 30 million ounces of registered silver. The BRICS nations are said to hold paper claims on at least 100 million ounces. The math just doesn't work. The exchanges will face a stark choice: default on their delivery obligations, or let the price skyrocket high enough to shake loose supply from other sources. If they default, the credibility of Western commodity markets is destroyed forever. If they let the price rise, we could be talking about $100, $200, maybe even $300 silver before a new equilibrium is reached. Third, industrial users will panic. The solar panel manufacturers, the electronics companies, the defense contractors, they all need silver. They can't just wait for prices to stabilize. They will rush to secure supply at any cost, adding even more fuel to the fire. Fourth, retail investors worldwide will finally recognize what is happening. The fear of missing out will be unprecedented. Every person who ever considered buying silver but didn't will rush to get their hands on metal. Coin shops will be emptied. Online dealers will show out of stock on every single product. Premiums will explode to 50, 75, even 100% over the spot price. And through all of this, Russia and China will just sit on their hoard, watching the Western financial system tear itself apart. They won't sell. They won't provide any relief. They will let the crisis burn until the dollar's credibility is completely destroyed. This isn't just a prediction. This is the explicit strategy that's allegedly outlined in the leaked document. They are not trying to profit from a bull market. They are trying to end the dollar era. So where does this leave you? If you hold physical silver, you are on the right side of history. You are aligned with the strategy of the rising powers, whether you intended to be or not. The metal in your safe will be revalued in terms of a new monetary system, a system where physical ownership matters more than paper claims. Every ounce you hold is an ounce that Russia and China cannot buy. It is an ounce that is outside the system, beyond the reach of banks, governments, and the manipulators who have suppressed its price for decades. You may not have known about Project White Tiger. You probably didn't have access to leaked government documents. But you understood the fundamental truth that they also understood. Physical metal is the only honest money, and all paper systems eventually fail. The difference is that they are deploying billions of dollars in state resources to exploit this truth. You're simply protecting yourself and your family by holding real, tangible assets. When this repricing happens, there will be two classes of people, those who hold metal and those who hold paper. The paper holders will watch their purchasing power evaporate. Their dollars, their bonds, their paper promises will be worth less and less. This is a pivotal moment in financial history. The pieces are all moving into place for a seismic shift in global power. The world is losing faith in the system. People are buying less and less, and soon government bonds will start to default. Why? Because governments will struggle to service their debts in a new world where currencies are backed by real commodities. But for those holding precious metals, your purchasing power is about to explode. Not because you're a speculator, but because you're holding something real in a world that is suddenly desperate for real things. This is the massive wealth transfer engineered by Russia and China. But you don't have to be a victim. You can be a beneficiary. All you need to do is hold on. Let me tell you what's coming next, and more importantly, what you should do about it. Things are moving faster than ever. The BRICS summit is just around the corner, and the announcement of a new currency could happen at any moment. When it does, the chance to buy silver at today's prices will vanish instantly. You can't afford to wait for confirmation. You can't wait for the mainstream media to tell you what's happening. By the time they report the story, the price will have already shot up. The opportunity will be gone. So, what should you do? First, accumulate physical silver while you still can. I'm not talking about paper ETFs or mining stocks. I mean real metal in your possession. Coins, bars, rounds, whatever you can get your hands on. Yes, there's a premium, but that premium is the price of certainty. Pay it gladly. Second, do not trust the paper markets. The COMEX price is a work of fiction that's about to be exposed. The SLV ETF holds metal in vaults that might have multiple claims on them. Mining stocks will benefit from higher prices, but they come with counterparty risk. Physical metal in your own safe has no counterparty. It is yours, absolutely. Third, prepare for volatility. The transition from our current system to whatever comes next will not be a smooth ride. There will be crashes, trading halts, and all sorts of interventions. The powers that benefit from the current system will fight tooth and nail to preserve it. They will manipulate prices, spread disinformation, and use every trick in the book to shake you out of your position. Do not be shaken. The fundamentals haven't changed. The Eastern powers are still accumulating. The supply deficit is still growing. The paper market is still a fraud. Temporary price drops are opportunities, not threats. Fourth, understand that this is about more than just money. This is about a global power shift from west to east. The financial system that emerges from this crisis won't be controlled by Wall Street or the Federal Reserve. It will be anchored in Beijing, Moscow, and the commodity-rich nations of the global south. This isn't necessarily good or bad. It just is. The real question is whether you will be positioned to survive and thrive in this new order, or if you'll be a casualty of the old one. Let me give you specific milestones to watch for. Milestone 1, the BRICS summit announcement. When Russia and China reveal their true precious metals reserves, expect an immediate 20% to 30% spike in silver prices. This will be the market adjusting to the new reality of supply. Milestone 2, the delivery crisis. When Eastern powers start demanding physical delivery of their metal from Western exchanges, expect chaos. Trading will halt, margin requirements will skyrocket, and ultimately, contracts that were supposed to deliver metal will be settled in cash. When this happens, the paper price becomes meaningless. Only the physical price will matter. Milestone 3, the premium explosion. When retail investors finally realize what's happening, they will rush to buy physical metal. Premiums over the spot price will spike to levels we've never seen before. A coin with a $30 spot price might cost you $60 to actually acquire. That premium becomes the real price. Milestone 4, the currency announcement. When the commodity-backed BRICS currency is formally launched, expect a fundamental repricing of silver. The metal will no longer be priced in declining dollars. It will be priced against a basket of real commodities. This repricing could easily take silver to $100, $150, or even higher. Milestone 5, the industrial panic. When manufacturers realize that the silver supply is genuinely constrained, they will start stockpiling aggressively. This industrial hoarding will remove even more metal from the market, pushing prices higher and higher. Each of these milestones builds on the last. Each one pushes prices higher and makes the crisis more intense. And each one validates the strategy that Russia and China have been executing for 15 years. Now, some of you might be wondering, why the focus on silver and not gold? The answer is leverage. Gold is a $15 trillion market. Silver is a $1.5 trillion market. To move the price of gold significantly, you need to mobilize hundreds of billions of dollars. To move silver, you need only a fraction of that. Russia and China couldn't secretly accumulate enough gold to break the market. The amounts required would be too large to hide, and central bank reporting requirements would expose their strategy. But silver? Silver is the forgotten metal. It's not held in central bank reserves. It's not tracked by the IMF. It can be accumulated through private channels without any reporting. The Eastern powers chose silver because it's the soft target. It's the vulnerability that the West never bothered to protect. And now, after 15 years of patient accumulation, they are ready to strike. Gold will certainly benefit from this crisis. But silver is the tip of the spear. Silver is the weapon. And silver holders will see the greatest gains of anyone in this transition. Let me leave you with this thought. 15 years ago, a small group of strategists in Beijing and Moscow looked at the global financial system and saw its weakness. They saw a paper empire built on debt and derivatives, a system that only worked because everyone believed in it. And they saw an opportunity. For 15 years, they have been executing their plan, quietly, patiently, ounce by ounce. Now the plan is nearly complete. The vaults are full. The infrastructure is ready. The announcements are being drafted. You cannot stop what is coming. You cannot reverse 15 years of accumulation. You cannot convince Russia and China to abandon their strategy, but you can join them. Every ounce of silver you hold puts you on the winning side of history. Every ounce you hold is a vote of no confidence in the paper system. Every ounce you hold is protection for you and your family in the turbulent years ahead. The secret strategy has been exposed. The timeline has been revealed. The choice is now yours. Russia and China have been accumulating for 15 years. They know what silver is worth. They know where the system is going. They have positioned themselves accordingly. The question is, have you? This is Vault AG. Thank you for watching. If this report opened your eyes to the global game being played above our heads, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with everyone who needs to understand what is coming. The Eastern powers are making their move. The silver strategy is exposed, and those who see it now have a chance to position themselves before the rest of the world wakes up. I'll see you in the next one. Stay stacked.